Are you tired of watching shows that only give you general social media theory and expect you to figure out how to apply it to your own industry? Join us for this week's episode of Social Chatter, the industry's longest-running social media marketing news talk show. Not only will you learn the latest breaking news, but you'll also gain practical advice on how to apply it. Now here's your host, Christian Karasiewicz.
Welcome everyone to Social Chatter, your weekly social media marketing news talk show. This is episode 239. And I got to say, it's been quite a week. I'm just actually coming off of the Ecamm Leap into Live Stream Bootcamp that they rolled out. I was actually presenting on that. If you guys want to check it out, even though it was started actually a couple of days ago, you could actually go and join that. I'm going to drop the link here as well in the comments. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, let us know, if you want to sign up for that. It's a fantastic opportunity. Everything is free. Basically, you go there, you can learn all sorts of things. For example, I teach how to create video overlays to help you create a professional quality live stream show. A couple of guests we've had on this show as well. Like we had Stephanie Liu on. She actually is teaching some lessons. Amanda Webb, we've had her on. Who else we had? We had Owen Hemseth or Owen Video. He was on there as well. So definitely something you want to go check out. It's a free live video boot camp. So I'm excited, by the way, this week. We have a lot of topics to talk about. And Jim and I, we were going over all these topics beforehand, trying to figure out what do we actually want to talk about today from a social media news perspective. And there's so much that can really help you as a business owner. So what we're going to do is we're going to get started. I'm going to go ahead and bring Jim on. Jim, how you doing this week?
Great. How you doing? Good to be here. It's been a little rainy where I'm at, but I think it's finally starting to clear up. So get outside and get some fresh air. Looking forward to that. But yeah, excited about today's episode. Love the guests that we have.
Yeah, we have a fantastic guest, and we've got some fantastic topics that we're going to be discussing as well. And we're also going to talk about some social media experiments, because as a business owner, you don't need to just put up a website and just leave it. You need to constantly be testing everything that you do in your business. Now, I'm not saying like, hey, let's test everything at once. We're going to actually have our guest, Scott Ayres, talk about that. But it's very important to test. If you're, for instance, testing out a website, maybe you want to test out, use a tool maybe such as like a Hotjar or something like that. You can install that, and that will actually let you see where your audience actually goes on your website. So if you're like, hey, do I have too many menu items? You can easily see what people are clicking on. You can see the content they're clicking on. Maybe they're clicking on something that looks like a link, but it's not. So from a website standpoint, great thing to be doing all the time to test some things. Also social media channels, right, Jim?
Yes, absolutely. So many ways to be testing different things on channels, see what's most effective. I mean, and that's probably something Scott will talk about, because it's definitely something he does a lot of.
Definitely. So let's go and bring our guest on. Let's go and bring on Scott.
Hey, I'm doing well. I am not in my normal space. As if anybody ever watched our show, you can tell because of all the COVID stuff, I'm actually borrowing a classroom at a school that is no kids in it, obviously. And so they're letting me use it. And tomorrow I'll be able to go back over to my office. It's about a
40-minute
drive for me, and the restrictions, I couldn't go. I'm spoiled though, because the internet here in this classroom is like amazing. It's like 800 up and like 800 down. It's like ridiculous. In my house, I get like 0.5 up, so I can't do anything live from home. And it's like 2 blocks from my house. But so yeah, it's a little bit different setting. It's kind of fun to be in actual. It feels like I'm in a lab, which is kind of fun.
It does, yes.
Yeah,
I was
right on the board.
Yeah, I was say that's appropriate, right?
Yeah, I think so.
You just need some science beakers there behind you,
right.
Maybe the cabinets. And
I have some in my office. I just didn't bring them home with me a month ago when the restrictions happened, so I should have brought them with me. Yeah.
Well, we're excited to have you. Scott works for Agora Pulse. What do you do at Agora Pulse?
My official title is the content scientist. We made that up one day. And basically my job is I go out and test different social media marketing tactics and myths that people have talked about. Maybe I hear something at a conference or a summit or somebody teaching and go, I wonder if that's right. And so we test those sort of things. Sometimes it's odd things like, how many emojis should you use, or should you use emojis, or what size ads work better on Facebook or Twitter. And then we blog about them, podcast, do a live video show, and I was speaking at events, and now it's more online summits for a little while, like everybody else. And so, yeah, we have a lot of fun with it. Been doing it about 3.5 years. Almost 3.5 years I've been with Agora Pulse.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, as far as like, by the way, so here's a question for you. If you do actually run an experiment based off what somebody says, let's say the information's incorrect, like what do you do? Do you like pull out the person, or like?
I typically, at times we have. There was one experiment, and I love her to death, Subi Zimmerman. She's always been teaching about like putting your hashtags in your comments and stuff. And I kept wondering, do we really need to do that on Instagram now? Maybe 5 years ago where it needed to. So I quoted her in the article where she taught that and then tested it. And our results were like, and I don't know the exact, it was around 25% higher reach whenever we put them in the original post as opposed to the comments. And, a couple of people messaged me about it and were like, hey, why are you saying this? We're teaching this. Sorry, the data doesn't lie. So that's the important fact is, we're looking at data, not our opinion. In my opinion, going into a lot of the tests is always wrong because I'm like, because I think it's this way because I've taught it or somebody else has taught it or been saying it forever. And then you run the test and you look at data and you're like, maybe we need to stop that, or, hey, we're right. So I'm probably about 50-50 when it comes to guessing on stuff beforehand.
Yeah, and I've always thought it was that even at one point, I've always didn't understand the point of putting the hashtags in the comments because it's like you're searching for that picture.
Right.
And so it just didn't make sense to me. Like, why would I search for hashtags in the comments?
I think for a lot of people, the reason
like liking your own stuff, right?
Yeah, I think people do it because they don't like, they think it looks ugly. It looks too markety. But I mean, if you on Instagram, especially after about 75 characters, you get the see more option. And so no one's going to see it anyway. And so you push it down below that. And who cares? Because you just want to get in that search as fast as you can is what we've found. And your followers don't care that you're marketing with hashtags. I mean, most people understand what hashtags are for. It's for audiences that don't follow you. So you want to get them in that, explore tab as quick as you can.
Definitely. And what did Jen have? Did you ever talk to Jen Herman on that? What did she have to say on that?
She's kind of, we've had a lot of conversations. We've done some tests with Jen. Love her to death. I think she still leans towards putting it in the first comment just because of the aesthetics of it. And there's some new tools now that allow you to schedule your first comment. So it does, the timing of it is exactly the same time as your post, which can maybe, kind of keep the results similar. So I think she's kind of 50-50. And a lot of people are also doing the, dot, and big blank space, and then the hashtag to kind of, again, you're trying to hide it. And, but I don't know about you guys, but when I go to Instagram, I'm not really reading a lot of, the description. I read a little bit maybe to kind of see if it's interesting or if I want to hit to see more. But if they don't hook me in the first, 5 words, I'm on to the next one. So, my theory is get it out there because you're trying to appeal to new people who don't follow you. And you got to get in that search. And that search is, kind of, it's reverse chronological. So it's the last one in is at top. So you want to get out there fast.
So we'll talk more with Scott, by the way, later on in the show about experimenting, how to run social media experiments and whatnot. Jim, you ready to kick things off?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so where do you want to go? Where do you want to go first? Because I know we
got some big news, especially with everything that's been going on with Zoom specifically. Facebook has introduced messenger rooms. And
you want to tell viewers, what are these?
Well, so you can have up to 50 people in a room in Messenger, and you can actually have a video chat. I haven't received it yet. I don't know if it's another one of these slow rollouts and you had to pay so much in ad dollars to get it first. But it's a way for people to, in theory, feel safer from a security standpoint because they're in the Facebook ecosystem, and it's going to allow you to use desktop. I think you can even do it on your phone, because we know a lot of people like to use Messenger on their phone. So great way for people to connect. And it also sometimes overcomes that. As an example, I have an iPhone, I can use FaceTime, but I can't always talk to my friends that might have a Google device and vice versa. But I think they see an opportunity to take away some market share from Zoom, who has just exploded in usage. And I think that's been part of their problem, is Zoom was just overwhelmed with the unexpected demand that they got. Even though there's other programs that'll let you do similar things to Zoom, I just think, people will say, oh, well, just use Zoom. And that's what they did.
Gotcha. What do you think, Scott?
I do like the fact that they're kind of going after Zoom, because, like, for example, Zoom did their whole free thing for a while. Like, they took the time limits off, where it's 40, because they had 40 minutes in their free plan. So everybody and their dog was using it, and they lifted that during all this stuff. My wife's a kindergarten teacher, so she's using Zoom a lot. My kids are using Zoom with their teachers and stuff. And I volunteer at our church for our student ministry, and we use it every week to do our student ministry stuff. And so we've done it every week. Last night we were on a Zoom. All of a sudden we got the countdown, and usually before we never even saw the countdown, or we'd say, you've been gifted an extra, X amount of minutes. It kicked us out and shut us off. So their Zoom is actually implementing the time limits again, I guess, for the free plans. And so I think this opens it up where people, especially nonprofits who are just doing it for meetings and kind of get-togethers, can use it. They don't have to have a Facebook account. You just kind of invite people over to it and be in there. Some of those are kind of cool. You can just leave the rooms open, I guess, and people can just kind of come in and out. Seems kind of odd. Like, you can make sure your camera's, covered up if it's the wrong instance. But I do like the fact that they're thinking more community. Facebook's been doing this for a while, though, with Portal, with groups being so, they're advertising during the Super Bowl about groups. So they're all about community right now, because they realize the news, dark social is where we're going. And so the news feed is kind of not as predominant now. So I think it makes sense for them to do this. I haven't had it yet or seen anybody has it yet, but I'm kind of interested to play around with it, just because, I'm on Facebook more than any other site, and I hate having to go create a Zoom thing and then invite everybody to it. Or, like, if I run a group and I want to, hey, let's have a hangout and just talk, like a virtual happy hour or something. Everybody's got to go over to the Zoom and install Zoom. And, so they just click it and go. I think it's really smart of them. And it's supposedly they were coming out with this before all this happened anyway. They just kind of pushed it, quicker, is what Zuckerberg said the other day.
Right. And I think I'm with you, Scott. I think it makes a lot of sense. If I can get, I think the question right now is, it seems like it's going to be more on the personal side. Like, it would be great if a business could have this capability. But you just got to work around it. But I think the fact that, maybe you have your little group and everybody can come in and have a nice chat would be nice at times. Invite people to it, which kind of goes to the fact that this is also something they're going to expand, like WhatsApp, as I think going to go to 8 people can have a video chat. So I think you're right. This is something they've been planning on. Maybe they've accelerated the timeline because they see it's an opportunity. Yeah.
Oh, it's the number one advertised thing right now, at least in my space. All I see on Facebook is video conferencing ads. So it's smart of them to do it. But I think there'll be some people who the Facebook haters, the delete Facebookers, they're not going to want to hop in and have a video chat on Facebook. So there's still going to be need for the third party Whereby, or, maybe Google Meetings or Zoom, those things. Because some people are not going to want to. They deleted Facebook a few years ago at the whole Cambridge thing, and they're not going to come back over to it.
Right. I will say that the part there's 2 things actually I really like about this. One of those is the fact that you don't have to have a Facebook account to join.
Yeah.
That's a big wall that has been removed. Big barrier to entry for a lot of people. Some people just won't use it because, hey, they have to have Facebook and they don't want Facebook. So I think that's a huge thing. I also like the fact that they're rolling this out for Instagram Direct, WhatsApp, Facebook Portal, and obviously Facebook, just because, again, we know at some point Facebook's going to end up converging a lot of these tools. And I think this is a really good step in the right direction, I think, for that.
Scott, do you have a Facebook portal yet?
I don't. I know a few people who do. I think, who's it, Chad Peterson? I think he's got them. I see him talking about it all the time. But I never have seen a need for it because, I've got a camera, I've got a laptop. But the hands-free thing is kind of interesting, and it does kind of get you. But I want to see how it really follows you. It's supposed to follow you around and stuff a little bit.
Right.
So that is intriguing. I think there's actually, I saw an ad. Of course, we were right before we got on here. probably because I've been looking at these links. I think they like right now they've got it marked down through Mother's Day for like $79 for the cheapest one. It's $50 off. So I mean, they're pushing it. They know people are right now wanting to talk. No one wants to sit around all the time for 2 months talking to their grandma on an iPhone, but they got something easier where they can read a book to them and that sort of stuff. They're going to appeal to that emotion hard right now. And it's smart of them because they're going to start bleeding money on ads here, this next quarter. So, I mean, it makes sense that they try to push this a little bit right now. Y'all have one? Anybody else have? I don't think y'all do you?
I don't yet. I have the Echo Show, which is the video version of, I can't say her name because she's in the room. And I think that's something that's because you can do video chats on that. And I sometimes say that I think what people don't realize is I think Amazon is that sleeping giant doing a lot of things in the background that we're not always aware of. Like I saw somebody show the other day that Amazon has a platform for doing video conferencing as well that I wasn't aware of.
Yeah, we talked about that one last week. We talked about Amazon Chime as well, which is another basically a Zoom alternative. So for this feature, for messenger rooms, I think, the key takeaway here is if I'm a business, I want to test this out with my profile, see how it actually works when it gets 100% rolled out to everyone. Again, expect some bugs. You're always going to have bugs in the initial release of things. If you're somebody who wants to join, for example, as a page, or you join certain things on Facebook as a page, don't assume that just because you can join, everything else is going to work the same. Start with that profile, test it out. Again, see if it actually fits, with your business. You might, for example, Jem, you and I go through this all the time, talking with people about, well, hey, should they use Zoom for live streaming? Should they use StreamYard? Should they use Restream? There's all sorts of tools out there. And, we always tell them it really comes down to what the job is you're trying to get done. And for example, if you're trying to use Zoom works for certain things. It doesn't work great for others. So it has a very specific focus. The same thing here with Messenger Rooms. Anything else you want to add, by the way, about this feature before we move on to the next topic?
I'm going to definitely try it out. I mean, I think it's interesting to see how it works. And, you're going to have, so many people, and Scott probably knows the stats, use their phones instead of their computers when they're on social media platforms. So I think that's where the challenge is going to be. And, not as many people driving right now, but I'm always concerned that people are trying to drive and be on Facebook at the same time.
Nobody ever does that, Jim. Come on.
Right. Not right now.
Yeah.
Okay, Jem, so where do you want to go next? We talked about messenger rooms, obviously really big topic this week. What's next?
Well, they also go on further to talk, like I said, they're expanding the WhatsApp group calls to 8 people. And then let's talk about some of the new live video features that they're going to put into Facebook, Instagram, and Portal.
What are these features?
So Facebook is going to bring back the live with, so you can bring another person into your Facebook Live natively. And they used to have that. I don't remember how long ago it was, and it kind of went away. And you could say that some of the third-party tools, StreamYard and some of these others, gave you that ability to bring a guest on. So I think that's going to be exciting for people, especially say if you want to do a one-on-one interview. And I'm not sure how well they're going to do with the idea of screen sharing. I think that was always an issue. You would get the mirror effect when you try to screen share. At least I would, and that's one of the reasons why I stopped using Facebook Live natively, because even though you could screen share, it just never seemed to work right. And so I think that's a really big deal. I think people are really going to like that fact that they can bring someone on, but it kind of goes back to what we talk about a lot, Christian, is just because you can do it doesn't mean you should.
Exactly. I'm excited about some of these features. I mean, the live with feature, I think that's, again, it's a limited scope in the fact that you can bring on a guest. And so you could do a one-on-one interview, which makes a lot of sense. If you do need something, and again, if you need something more than that, you need to look at a tool such as a StreamYard, a Restream, or even a Zoom, for example. And because it also comes down to the style you want to present in as well. So definitely something to check out there. What other things do you want to cover on this?
Well, I like what they're doing with the Facebook events, and they're basically going to create this online portal where you can actually charge people to join your event. Now, I know they've been doing some of this, I think, with membership sites. I don't know, like I think Facebook, maybe like, every other pay platform, whether it's PayPal, Square, they might get a percentage, and that may be the one thing that will turn people off. But it goes back to it's two things, right? It's their strategy of,
Mhm.
if I can simplify you and I keep you on the platform, you spend more time and money on the platform. And Scott could probably talk to this. I think with the exception of Twitter, most platforms punish you if you put a link in the comments taking you off platform.
Yeah, I think that is part. I mean, like you were saying earlier, most people are sticking on mobile. I think, to go back to the Facebook Live thing real quick, I think
Yeah,
the
sure.
live with, they're copying Instagram. I mean, they already had it on Instagram where you could go live with somebody else on mobile. I think it's
Mhm.
going to appeal to the individual users personally more than like serious businesses. I
Right.
see it more of like, hey, Bobby and John want to go live and shoot the breeze and
Right.
have a conversation or an informal interview, and they just want to grab, or maybe somebody just wants to interview somebody and grab the audio. They don't care about the video. That could be a great way to do it on the go. I know a lot of people who do that on Instagram. They do go live, double, grab the audio, use it for a podcast. So I think that'll come into play there. Or like I was talking about this the other day, I have a friend who got him Taylor. I've known him forever. He sings at a bar. The bar's called Somewhere Else. The bar somewhere else, I think is what it's called. Let's go somewhere else. That's the whole idea. And he has Thirsty Thursdays. He always sang there live every Thursday. And he went live on Facebook. No, he doesn't do graphics or anything. It's just him and his band, or him playing. He can't go live there right now because the bar is closed. And so he's been going live on his own, just him singing. But the cool thing you could do with this with somebody else, him and the guitar, he could have, let's say, his drummer or somebody on bongos live with him, and they could do a little something together without having to buy software, without having to, use something like StreamYard, because they're not techie guys. They're just two dudes that want to play music. So I think there's some stuff like that could be fun. I don't think, if I'm a business or a brand, that I would use it because I want all these other tools that you get with something like StreamYard or Restream or all the others, where I can do the lower thirds, I can bring in video, I can share my screen at the same time. So until Facebook does that, I still don't think I would use Facebook's native live, just because of all the things you can't do that we typically, like, you couldn't do this right now. On Facebook Live, you'd have to have a third-party tool. So I see some fun stuff with it, but I don't think, if I'm a business, unless I'm a small business that just wants to play with it here and there, I wouldn't use it a whole lot. But yeah, as far as the event thing, I mean, I love this concept of being able to go live into an event and then charge people if they want access to it. That's really cool. You think about concerts, you think about artists, you think about you could run your live summit. We're in summit fever right now. There's too many, but it's especially in our space. There's so many right now. You can't keep up with them, and they're great, but you just can't keep up with them. There's so many. But the cool thing would be is if you could do a Facebook event. You don't need a summit software, and you charge people to watch your live. It's very exclusive. It's here in this event only. You got to pay, and that saves a lot of time and energy. And I'm sure the payments are secure. Facebook's going to keep their portion. They're gonna grease their pockets for it. But it does I think that kind of makes it a more exclusive kind of deal, and can make it go viral. Like, hey, y'all got to go check out this concert's going on right now. But it's a $10 fee to get in. Okay, well, I'll pay the $10 fee to get in the door. To watch it.
And even maybe if it's after it's started, it's kind of like scalpers at football games. You can get it for half price, but you still get that ongoing revenue.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if somebody especially artists. I think artists could do well, and I think someone doing teaching a summer, teaching a course like right now, so doing a webinar. When you do a webinar software, you get when you log when you opt into a webinar, you're going to get email after email after email after email. Where I sign up for this event, I pay my $15, whatever it is, and then I watch it right there on Facebook.
Yeah. By the way, so I have two things about this. So one is another thing Facebook's rolling out in terms of live is they're rolling out they're expanding the stars program, and that's basically a way for pages and other countries and obviously creators to be able to monetize their live streams. They get 1 cent for every star, basically. I'm wondering if this feature, the one we're talking about now, being able to obviously pay for a live within events, kind of has anything to do with the stars feature. And then the second part, is the fact that how much do you think this will actually detract from somebody tuning into a live? Because right now somebody could easily go, live for free basically, and then they could drive them back to their website or something like that to do some monetization. I'm wondering, how much drop off there might be if people start charging for live videos. So I get your examples, by the way. I think that might be something to test at the Media Lab.
Yeah, if I get access to it, I'd definitely test it. I mean, I think it'd be fun to do hey, we're having a 1 hour whatever, and you're teaching something or having a guest on, it's exclusive. And yeah, I think it'd be interesting. Yeah, I don't know if it'll deter anything or not, but it could help those who are struggling, especially those we know in the speaking industry. Maybe they make a little extra cash, by doing something online and charging for it will be really unique.
Yeah, and Chris Stone kind of had it's an interesting question, is how is this maybe better than Crowdcast?
That's a good question.
I've never used. I know who uses. A Social Media Examiner uses Crowdcast, I believe, but they don't charge. Yeah, the stars thing is interesting. I watched a guy the other day, and he was in a group, Jen Herman's group actually. Right. He does something with. He's a baby accessory and reviewer, and I don't think he even has kids. He has this dirty little doll that sits next to him, and that's what his kid is, and he tests these the swings and all this stuff. He's got like hundreds of thousands of followers. He got the star thing the other day. He's like, I wonder if I should even do this. And so he's like, hey, I'm gonna try it. And he did one, and he made like $25 during his live. So he's like, hey, it's beer money, Right. So I mean, I think some people will use it. I watched David and Laria on Live Streaming Pros. They use other sources, other things outside of Facebook as well as Facebook, and people tip them all the time. Right. So there's some people who have that mentality of that tipping. And so I think you might make a little bit. I don't think you're going to go, pay your rent with it probably, unless you're like PewDiePie or something like that. Yeah. But you might get a cup of coffee.
Yeah. So back to Chris's question, by the way, as far as like, how is this different? I guess, how is Crowdcast different from, for example, the Facebook stars? Obviously, like from a cost standpoint, I mean, you don't have the overhead that you have necessarily with Crowdcast, where like you're basically charging somebody to actually use the software. Then there's also a transaction fee depending on which plan you have, and that sort of thing. I mean, it goes like, I think it's 5% for a transaction fee on the starter plan. If you go to the business one, it drops to 2%. So I think that like the main thing is really Facebook in a way bankrolling, a lot of those features, I think.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? Anything else you want to add? I mean, how that might be different?
Well, I think you hit a good point there. I mean, I've watched Crowdcast stuff. I've been a guest on Crowdcast, sessions. But if you want to use it all the time, you're going to pay, to use the platform outside of being a guest. So I think that would be one thing that might hesitate people from going over to using Crowdcast when, hey, I don't have to pay for Facebook unless I'm paying to be on an event. So I think that's probably a big thing. And I think sometimes, right, we talk about this all the time, Christian, we get overwhelmed with the number of choices, and sometimes you got to keep it simple. Don't give people too many choices or they won't make a decision.
Right.
And Eileen, she also brings up a good point as far as using Crowdcast, that it's expensive if you want 1080p. Again, that's another thing, like people are charging for, that stream quality. And it also comes down to the platform. Like if the platform is, if it ends up being a very inconsequential number for, a very large company, then, a lot of times they might eat some of that cost because, hey, they keep the platform free versus Crowdcast. Like I said, they charge you a monthly use and then they tack on as a bit of an add-on for every little thing that you want. So, if you want, 5 hours a month, you can pay 20, but hey, if you need 40 or more, it's $139 a month. So you got a pretty big difference there, I think. And they also charge for additional locations and that sort of thing as well. So definitely great questions there. Jim, anything else you'll want to add on these new Facebook Live features?
Well, you put in the comments, and I think it's another interesting thing is the audio only version. If you're having issues with bandwidth on being able to listen to a live audio only. And I guess why it's interesting is because, and Scott, you probably know this stat by heart, is like 80% of people watch the video with the audio off.
Yeah, it's maybe higher. Yeah. Facebook likes to inflate their view numbers, but yeah, I mean, a lot of people do. And if you're like, I know a lot of people like on a live like this for say, they might open this live up and stick it in another tab and go on doing other things, and they're just listening. So if you don't need to watch the video, you just want to listen along, that could help that with the bandwidth issue, especially right now when everybody's you got 6 kids at home or something like that, killing your Wi-Fi. To be able to turn the video part off only, that's kind of a neat thing. Yeah.
Yep.
Very good. Yep. So, obviously, lots and lots and lots of topics on Facebook this week. I mean, lots of big, I think, topics that will help impact you as a business. Where do we want to go next, Jim?
Well, there's one last thing in here. Just maybe people need to understand too what they're doing with Instagram and desktop, because I think that's really a big deal for a lot of people. I think that's always been, if you want to call it the complaint of those of us with big thumbs, is why do I always have to do Instagram on the phone? Why can't I do more on the desktop? So now that you can actually watch Instagram lives on your desktop, make comments, I think people are going to like that. And I think that's also going to bring in, because I think I'm part of it, that older demographic that just, they need that bigger screen. They just can't see stuff on the mobile device.
Yeah, I think it'll be the only thing that's going to be interesting in that is there's no way to schedule Instagram lives. I don't believe of any sort. There might be with I think I saw Lula TV that might allow you to do that, but most of them you can't. So no one's going to know. So you have to see it on your phone and then I guess hop over to the desktop. I think there's going to be something there to try to figure out. The thing with me with lives, I don't like on the Instagram when I'm watching someone's live is it takes up my whole phone. I can't do anything else. If I get off of it and I'm done, you can't really minimize it. It's if you get off the Instagram app, it just closes it. So that'd be kind of nice to be able to watch. I don't watch Instagram lives hardly at all anymore because of that. Because I've got to hold my phone and sit with it, and the comment section is so odd, and you only see 2 or 3 people, and it fades away, into the stream. And so if it's a busy one, like I was watching one with Gary Vee, you can't keep up with the comments. It's ridiculous. Where on desktop, you be able to keep up with the conversation better. So yeah, I think it's kind of neat for them to do this. But again, I was talking to somebody the other day, they're like, at what point is it going to be kind of like Facebook gram, where
right.
everything's just kind of together. It almost feels that way. Like they're copying, when it's kind of neat to have them so unique where there's Instagram does this, Facebook does that, but we're seeing more and more mixing together. It doesn't make them as unique anymore. Just kind of feels that way. I wonder if they're hurting themselves in the long run, but or at some point they're going to pull the plug on Instagram and just be Facebook.
No, I think that's a great point, Scott. I mean, that's kind of always, my argument with a lot of companies is, you're good at like one thing, and then you try to be this jack of all trades, and things start to suffer. I mean, Instagram TV, I think now it's been out almost 2 years. Yeah. And has it really caught on? And, what is the point that they're trying to compete with YouTube? And, and now like everybody's got this way, like, oh, you can get, supporters. And so like now Facebook's going to throw you a penny, and, you can get super chats on YouTube. So it's kind of like, oh, let's copy that because that'll bring more people over. And, so if that does anything, right, it makes people think, oh, I got to be everywhere. And then they're overwhelmed because they're not good at any platform.
Yeah. You can't be all things to all people. Is that kind of the,
exactly.
You got to pick your battles and pick your niche and be good at that. But yeah, I just wonder if they're just kind of, at some point you start cannibalizing yourself. And so I think they got to be careful with that.
Yeah. Great point.
100%. So anything else you want to cover on this topic, Jim or Scott?
No, I mean, unless you want to talk about what they're doing with Portal. I mean, we talked a little bit about that.
Sure. What is going on with Portal? So obviously Facebook Portal, it's a device people can put it in their kitchen. They can put it in their office. It can follow you around, as Scott mentioned, follow you around in the sense that it basically tracks you as you move in front of the portal. Or if there are 2 people in the room, for instance, if Scott and Jim were in the same room and Jim was talking, the portal would know to focus on Jim because he's the main person speaking versus focusing on Scott. But what's the update here, Jim?
Well, they're going to let you go live to your pages and groups. So that, I think, will definitely make people have more of an interest in Portal. I guess the question is really going to be, will it allow you to do that using third-party software, or are you going to be limited to, whatever it is that Portal does? Because I have not played with that. We'll have to ask Chad if he's able to do anything with that. But that's I think that's it's a logical step for them, right? And then people can use their portal as a way to go live and maybe in different spots in their house and not always have to be in front of their workstation.
Yeah, and I wonder what the quality of the camera is. Like, can it replace a webcam for somebody? Or give them, like, I'm using a little Logitech C920, but what if I have that? And I don't know if it has any sort of input output, but if I could set it up on a different angle on a live show and switch back and forth between two cameras, I mean, for only $79, which is a mini right now, is $79. I mean, that's kind of cool and kind of does add a different element you might play around with. But, it could be a cheap, easy way for people to go live without a lot of equipment too.
Right.
And that's the key thing right there. I mean, if you look at, for example, you look at iPads, for example, people don't have to buy a very expensive machine.
Right.
In this case, it's a very cheap device. They don't have to buy a laptop if all they're doing is joining, for example, or they just want to do some basic, lives. Like they're not having to invest in the webcam and the microphone and the mixing board and all the software and whatnot. So I love this idea. I mean, just the fact that, Portal's going to finally add some functionality, because a lot of people have asked to be able to go live on pages and groups with Portal. Now, my question, I guess, for you guys, so will this be like the deciding factor to get you to actually buy a Portal? Is it the price? What's your take?
I mean, it does have, I have the URL open right now, so that tells me something. I'm like, I've been looking at it now, $50 off right now for the mini. It's an 8 inches. So it's about the size of a, smaller iPad mini, I guess. Yeah. But it does kind of interest me a little bit now, because especially the group aspect of going live in the group. Because the bad thing about, if you go, you could do all your camera and stuff, or you're on your laptop. The laptop cameras always suck. So if this is better than a laptop camera, you could be doing stuff on your laptop while you're talking to them. It depends on the feature. Like, what do they let me do? Can I do? Yeah, if I can take it into StreamYard and do 2 things with it, man, that really makes it kind of cool, because you can do multiple things. You can see your camera really easy and see yourself, and I don't know. It's gonna be. I almost want to. Yeah, I want to get one now just to play with it. I wonder if I can expense that.
Well, that's kind of why I got the Echo Show. Kind of the same thing. Is like, I think there'll be more features that come out that make that something that makes more sense for business. And if this is going to be something I could use on pages and groups, I would have an interest in it. But if it's for my personal profile, not so much.
Yeah, personal profile, I care less. Yeah.
I think it's a very, I love the idea of it. I mean, for example, I'd love to be able, if I could take a Facebook portal and, depending on how portable it is, to be able to travel around with that, right. I think that would be a very useful thing to be able to have. That way I don't have to constantly take all this equipment. So there's definitely a lot to it. And by the way, I just want to jump back to that Crowdcast topic we talked about. In addition to the items that we covered, Chris also said you get participants' email addresses in Crowdcast, which is key for a business. I think that's definitely something we want to make sure we hit on, because email addresses are crucial in a business. You want to constantly be building that list,
right?
So that, as people drop off, that you're able to put more people in that funnel. So definitely worth it. So anything else you want to cover on this topic, guys, or you want to move on to something else?
No, let's move on to something you touched on before the show, and that's the transparency that Facebook's moving into with both Facebook and Instagram on large accounts, as far as telling people where the account's actually located.
This, I think, in my opinion, this is a really big move by Facebook. I mean, the fact that you'll now, if you're a really big page, you'll be able to actually people will be able to see where the accounts are being managed from. This doesn't just apply to Facebook pages; it also applies to Instagram accounts as well. What do you guys think about this? Good news, good, bad for business?
I'm mixed on that, because I wonder how, because our company's global. We're in 12 different companies. So if someone in the U.S. sees that our accounts are being monitored by somebody from our Brazil team, is that going to turn them off? How often is that location going to change? That's what I'm curious on. Is it just where the main scheduling's coming from? I don't know. So I'm a little wondering about that side, because it could just some people might go, oh no, I didn't know this account was in Switzerland, but it's a great account and you love it, and et cetera. But the flip side of it is they're worried about the election again, obviously. And so if you see that it's coming from the Ukraine, you might go and you're in the US and it's about US elections, okay, maybe I shouldn't listen to this account and it's fake after all. But I don't know. I'm kind of mixed. I like it to an extent, but also if it's a trustworthy brand, is that location constantly going to change based on who's running the social media at the time? That's what I'm really curious on.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. I sometimes feel like Facebook continues to attempt to overcome the Cambridge, mess, and they like, oh well, we got to be transparent, but then I don't think they always think of the second and third order effects, because I think that's a great point, Scott. I mean, Agora Pulse is based out of Paris, France. Is somebody's like, oh well, I'm not gonna follow this page because they're from France, and it's like, do you understand? We're in a much more global world. I mean, and even SCM Rush is out of Russia,
right? There's some really great companies. I mean, of course, we're all using TikTok, and they're out of China. So I mean,
right.
So I mean, I just wonder how what kind of impression is that going to give people for businesses that are legit? I get it for the people being fake and giving out fake news and stuff, but I just wonder how often it changes, or if it's just where your location you set. I don't know. It's kind of weird.
And the article even said at what point do they say that an account is large enough that they're going to tell you where they're from?
Yeah, I mean, it is questionable. I mean, I think that, again, I mean, it's something they're going to have to work up towards, to be able to get people to trust this. I think, again, they're also piloting this. So they're testing this with, large reach accounts. So, I would say it's not something that a current business, if you're a small business, you really don't need to worry about this that much. They do want to expand it, obviously, at some point to, much smaller pages. They don't want to just constantly focus on the big ones. But obviously, I mean, when somebody does get a huge Facebook account, they do kind of question those practices, I think. So I think it's good to know. I personally don't think it's that big of a deal if you're actually running your company legit. And
I think it's all about elections. I mean, if you even look at that article at the end, they talk about the transparency for elections, and look at the categories. The first one is election integrity. So, I mean, they're really just trying to, and it's only going to be tested in the U.S. for pages that are based outside the U.S. So, so they're really just trying to cover their butts a little bit. Based on what happened with our last election in the U.S., 4 years ago. I think they're just trying to give people an option to, hey, by the way, you follow a page with 100,000 followers, but they're based over here, and so even though they're talking about U.S. politics and stuff, so I think it's Facebook's way of hopefully covering their butts so they don't have to testify in front of Congress, again, or at least have some more. Hey, look, we gave people an option to see this. They continue to engage with them anyway.
Right.
That's what I see this as.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, and again, they're testing it. So we'll see how it goes. If it works well, maybe they'll keep it around. If it doesn't, again, not a big deal. But I'm at least glad they're testing this. They're trying some different things.
Right.
Because I get questions all the time from people. They're like, hey, I don't want people to see who's managing this page. I don't want them to see the location and things like that. Right. I mean, if you're a business, you really should have nothing to hide from that perspective. If you're doing things the right way. So, okay, we've talked about that. Anything else you want to cover now? Or
no, let's move into questions with Scott. Let's get some of the content.
Dun, dun, dun.
Real quick before we do that, heads up. I mean, for those of you, by the way, we've got a couple other topics we aren't going to get to. Obviously, some of those are things such as TikTok's got some donation stickers coming out. We've got some other things as well. So you can get all that in our daily email, socialchefs.com/daily. Go there, subscribe, and you'll get the newsletter complete with obviously everything we covered during the show and also a couple of things that we didn't get to. So let's talk with Scott now. So Scott, you work for Agora Pulse. You are, running social media experiments all the time with them. Jim, do you have some questions for Scott that we want to cover?
Yeah. The first one would be, how do you grow a live stream, Scott? I mean, you guys.
It's hard. You guys know that, especially right now with some people going live. But I think that if you want to have a live show, like we've done Social Media Lab Live, we did it for about a year and a half now. We're switching gears. a little bit right now. We're kind of in a pivot spot, like a lot of people. So I'm actually testing for the live show, our Social Media Lab Live, I'm calling it in quotes. I'm testing premieres right now. So I'm making a video, recording, because I haven't been where I had good internet. So I couldn't go live. And so like, okay, what do I do in the meantime? We have an audience who shows up every week. And so I've been making videos and then premiering. And actually the last two have done pretty well. So I'm kind of, yesterday's was really good and had some fun with it. So I would say first is you got to be consistent with the time of day and the day that you're doing it. So if you have a show, you should always go there. They ought to know Thursdays at 11 is when your show is, regardless of who else is going live or what's going on. Try to stay consistent with it, because people will start to expect it. Kind of like a Twitter chat. People know when the Twitter chats are happening. They know when your live show is happening. So I think you got to be consistent with your time and day. And you got to have a format that you follow weekly. So like you guys, you start out with kind of a little bit of chit chat, and then you're right into the news, you cover the news stories, you get to some questions, you talk about some tools, but have an expected format. And you're going to tweak that. And when you start out, you're going to go, okay, that segment bombed, and so I want to try a different segment, but have a consistent format. And we talked about audio a minute ago. Have good sound quality. People will forgive you if your video is not great, because sometimes on lives you are in another tab and they're just listening to you, but they won't forgive you for bad sound quality. So you've got to have good sound quality if you want people to come back and watch you again, because they won't forget. They'll give you once or twice on a live show or a podcast, but that third time, if they're like, oh God, I can't hear them, they're way too loud, they're way up in their mic, or something like that. They're not gonna come back. So buy you a cheap microphone like the ATR 2100. I think is a real good one. It's cheap. I use a Heil PR 40. I always forget the number of it. So there's lots of them out there. So you use a good mic, and then promote your live show a few days before. I use MiniChat chatbot. We have them opt in to our live show in the comments by saying lab. They automatically can opt into our chatbot, which sends them to our group, and then I send them broadcasts every week when we go live. I've only been doing it before. I was only doing it every morning when we went live, like right before or right after we started. And so now I'm starting to test. I'm sending one. We go live on Wednesdays, so I'm sending one on Monday. Hey, by the way, we have a show coming up. Go click get reminder. And then Wednesday I send it again, and I'm finding that we're getting more viewers because they're getting notified a couple of days ahead of time instead of just last minute. Oh yeah, by the way, we're going live. And then I say do watch parties. Do watch parties everywhere. I'm doing I've got a watch party for this show right now in our Facebook group. And it's got a few comments here and there. But I think watch parties, Facebook loves them because it's keeping people in your ecosystem. And so we found on our show, every time we do watch parties, especially in groups in our personal profiles, you get a lot more viewers and a lot more people touching your content that hasn't seen it before. So those are kind of if I were to I should write a blog post now about this. But those are kind of the things that we have done and seen really good success with. It's just having that run of show, keeping consistent with it, having that right time and good sound quality, and watch party, and don't do watch parties. Don't do watch parties in groups you don't have permission to do watch parties in. Let's just say that. Man, there's so many groups that all of a sudden you're like, what is this watch party? It has nothing to do with the content. So ask the group admin's permission if you're in a group. Like, hey, do you mind if I post my watch party? Some won't care. I mean, some love it because they want that interaction in the group. Right. But I've made the mistake of doing a watch party just to see, and I got kicked out of the group. So that happens sometimes too. But yeah, try some watch parties. Facebook only lets you do 4 watch parties max. At least the last time I've tried 4. I tried to do the 5th one, it wouldn't let me. So 4 is all you can do. The hard part is managing those watch parties if they're active. Because if they're commenting, you're like right now, I've got tabs open. I'm only on my laptop. Normally I'm on multiple screens. So I'm having to look back and forth just because I don't want to make sure I miss out on those comments. And if they're on desktop too, they can't comment on the live. And so unless they're on mobile will give you the option to flip back and forth between watch party comments and live. So you kind of got to know that. So a lot of times what I would tell people, like, hey, if you're watching in the watch party, come over to the live show so we can put your comments on screen. Give them a chance to come up because people love their name. Like you pop someone's name up here right now, it puts a smile on their face. They love that sort of stuff. So you want to get people over from the watch party to your live show as much as you can.
Have you ever done the watch parties like after the fact? Like,
We have a few times. We do our Social Pulse weekly show on Friday. Jennifer does that, and she'll come back in typically on Mondays and do a watch party on our page again, just to kind of re-engage people with that. You don't get a lot of comments and engagement on those, but you get those views, and you kind of get that brand awareness again. But people don't tend to, from what I've seen on our 2 live shows, people don't tend to engage with live replays. They just don't. You'll get a few. You probably noticed that with this show. You'll get a few, but it's not the same. But you do get those 1-minute views, which are really important because you want people to watch and hang around, and maybe they'll turn on the notification the next time you go live or something like that. But yes, I think it's worth playing around with and doing. But you're not going to get much engagement.
So rather than doing like sharing, like say the show to your personal profile, do it as a watch party and maybe get more people that way.
Yeah, because what it does is like the live view count. The watch party. Whoever's hops into that watch party and just watching it counts for your live views on your peak live viewers or your live view count. And so even though it's on your profile or on your group or on another page, Facebook will count that as somebody watching the live video, and that just kind of helps your organic reach even more.
Oh, great idea.
Definitely. So, do we have any other questions for Scott?
Of course we do. So
if you have time,
Mr. Mad Scientist, how can a business conduct their own social media experiments?
You should be testing all the time. I think you ought to try things. If you're still doing the same strategy someone told you 3 years ago, you probably should stop because it's not working. But I think you should test things a lot. And I would say if you want to test an idea or maybe a different version of your post or a graphic or something like that or an ad, give it at least 2 weeks. A 2-week minimum, because you just don't know the ebb and flow of Facebook. Alternate the days and times that you're posting it to, because Wednesday may have been hot for you and Thursday wasn't. So you may say, well, this thing didn't work, but you posted on the day that this wasn't great. So you want to alternate days, you want to alternate the times. At least 2 weeks. I like a month when I'm running tests. So let it go for a month. Alternating everything now, and have 2 things that you're testing. So you're testing this against that. That's typically what you want to kind of look at. Like I'm testing on Pinterest, and I'm not a big Pinterest guy. I'm testing text on images versus no text on images. But I've got to have identical copy, on tests like that. And it's on an ad, so I can get away with identical copy. No one really will notice. But you want to get everything as close as you can. You want to remove any anomalies that there might be. So like, when I run organic tests, and there's no hashtags. There's no tagging people. There's no tagging pages. There's no tagging locations. I don't share it to stories. I don't share it to another platform because that could skew the data immediately. And I think people forget about that a lot when they're testing stuff because they're so used to using hashtags. They're so used to tagging some person or some page, but then they're like, their data goes crazy on that post and they didn't do it on the other one. So yeah, you're going to have different results. So you've got to remove all the normal stuff that you might do, unless that's what you're testing. I mean, if you're testing hashtags, then do that. But hashtags are so volatile as far as testing because it just depends on what people are looking for, what's trending right at that moment. And so, hashtags can kind of skew your data quite a bit. And then you want to compare those results afterwards. I use Neil Patel has a really cool A/B split tester. Yep. And I love pretty much everything Neil does. Uber Suggest is like, I get addicted playing around with Uber Suggest all day. But his split tester, you just put in whatever your things that you were testing. Typically, if it's like, let's say you're testing likes on a post. So you do the reach and then the likes and then reach and likes. So your test and then, your main one you're using. And it'll give you, is this statistically significant? That's the hardest thing to say. Statistically significant. And you want at least 95%. 90% is okay. We aim for 95%. And what that means is, if I were to run that test again, or if you were to run that test, then you should get the same results again. If it's lower than 90%, even if it's like 85%, which sounds really good as a marketer, it's not scientifically significant. So you've got to kind of know that you got to test it, not just go, oh, look, that one got 5 more likes. We'll just do that. It may not be statistically significant. It may just be the right person liked it and someone else saw it. And so you've got to do that. You got to test things, and you've got to do enough quantity. Like there's a big test This one bugs me to death. There was a big test that came out testing emojis and tweets, and everybody picked it up. Like HubSpot's talking about it. Big blogs are talking about this data from this test. And there's like, you get 25% more engagement and impressions if you use emojis. So everybody's like, oh, you got to use emojis. And so we looked at it. It was an ad for one. So it's not even organic. So you can't apply it to organic tweets at all. And it was just 2 tweets is all they tested. That was it. And they only spent like $8 on one of the ads and like $25 on the other one. So it was like, this is not scientific at all. And there's actually a company, I won't name them, that has like built their business around that experiment. And I'm like, oh my God. And I even called the guy out at a conference I was speaking at where he was at. I'm like, dude, do you realize how small the test that was? And so I tested it with literally thousands of tweets to kind of see, and we had lower impressions when we use emojis. So, but I had enough data set to kind of look at. So you kind of just make sure you're testing the right thing is so important.
Wow, good stuff.
So the last question I guess we have for you, like how many social media experiments do you recommend somebody run at a time?
Yeah, I mean, I think if it's like for Facebook, you just run one. Don't do multiple because you could just be messing up. You still do some of your regular stuff so if you're testing link post versus an image with, link in the text, but you do a live show also, keep doing your live show when you normally would do it, but kind of throw in that other test. You want to kind of remain as normal as possible. I think if you're testing too much on one account, you may have something that went viral, and kind of messes up your data a little bit. So I like on my accounts, just one at a time. Now, if you can test one thing on Facebook, one thing on Twitter, one thing on Instagram, so you can have multiple things within your business that you're testing. But I like to do one at a time. So like right now, I have about 10 Instagram accounts that I use for testing that are in like goofy niches. I have one for semi trucks. I have one for motorcycles, Bigfoot, because I'm a big Bigfoot fan. Seriously, I have a Facebook page like 5,000 followers that's all about Bigfoot. Yeah, it's kind of fun. And I have one for touring Paris because our company's based out of Paris. We've got one for animals, all kinds of little things that are fun and entertaining. I intentionally, it was hard. I let the accounts go dead for 2 months. I haven't posted a thing in 2 months. Yeah. So just didn't touch it. Didn't engage with anybody. Didn't engage with messages, comments. And then now I'm posting twice a week for the next month to each of those accounts to see, did I kill my reach? Can I re-engage and, resuscitate, give the account CPR? Is Instagram going to punish me for going dormant for 2 months? Because that happens sometimes for businesses. You forget to post, something's going on. Like right now, probably a lot of places aren't posting because they're closed maybe. So it'd be an interesting test to see. So you got to play around with different things like that. But yeah, one test at a time per account is what I would recommend.
Okay. Very cool. So I want to thank Scott for just answering all these great questions for those of you who are tuning in, whether you're watching live on youtube.com/social chefs or facebook.com/social chefs. So we've got a couple more things for the show and then we're going to wrap things up. So we're going to move into just a couple of quick tools that, every week we like to share called Tool Time. So this segment, it's called Tool Time. And basically what we do is we identify some new tools that are out there that might be worth you checking out for your business. So the first tool that we're going to talk about, by the way, this week, it's called SparkToro. Jim, do you want to tell everyone about SparkToro? What is it? What does it do?
Yeah, it seems pretty basic, but it's a very important thing. It helps you get information about your online audience. And, we talk about avatar building all the time. So they have a free version that'll let you do 10 inquiries a month. So you can get smarter about who is your audience. And so if you're building ads or just even thinking about targeting, I think it's a really powerful tool to take a look at.
Scott, do you have anything you want to say about SparkToro?
Yeah, I've been playing around with it for about 2 weeks now since it launched. And this is from Rand Fishkin from Moz. If you remember Moz, Rand Fishkin was behind Moz. Now this is his new company. And they actually launched with like one of the neatest. They launched in the middle of this COVID crisis. And they put on a long email about, we thought about not launching. We thought about, should we launch? Shouldn't we? And so they kind of did a soft launch and talked about how we're trying to help people. But the cool thing I like is I can go to our website and I can see people who visit our website, like what other podcasts do they listen to? And so that's my focus right now, is being guest on podcasts. And so I've gone in and I've created a list of podcasts that people who already are reading our website, so they're already familiar with us, are listening to, and I'm reaching out to those podcasts. Hey, I want to be a guest on your show. People who visit our page already listen to you. I'd love to be on. And so there's a lot of cool little smart things that you can do on there. You can look at your competitors' websites and see where people are coming from, what pages they follow, what podcasts they listen. I love this tool. And there's the free one only gives you 10 searches a month. So I ran out of mine like the same day. But it is really neat. I mean, I'm enjoying it already. I think this is one of those ones that I think is worth, investing in possibly for a business, but serious about doing some like competitive analysis and, finding where everybody's coming in. Because the hard thing right now is you're just guessing about what people like that are kind of similar to you. That's what I get from. There's other uses in that, but that's what I'm using it for.
Yeah. And I mean, it seems a little pricey. I mean, as you mentioned, there's a version of it. There is a basic one that's $112 a month, but you do have to keep in mind, they do give you 3 months free if you sign up for an annual plan. You also get access to users, obviously seeing like the top 50 search results as opposed to like a single result from the free version. Anything else you want to add about this tool? I mean, definitely something I think people should check out. Anything else, Scott?
No, yeah, definitely check it out. I think it's maybe you just do it. Maybe like for me, what I'm doing, I'm focusing on podcasts right now because I know I've only got these 10 searches. And so I've done our website. I'm looked at competitors, websites. I've looked at competitors' podcasts to kind of see. So the intelligence they have and what they're pulling in is I don't think anybody else is doing anything like this. There's some that are similar, but nothing. This is very unique and the abilities that it has. So maybe if you're using the free version, focus on something for this month and make that your focus and create a list. And create those lists. Don't just leave it sitting there. Add in the things you want to keep in a list, and then kind of you can segment it out. You can play around with it. I'm really digging it. Yeah, it's one of those tabs out of my thousands of tabs that stays open all day that I'll look at all the time because I really enjoy it.
Awesome. Anything you want to add, Jim, as far as?
No, I would agree with Scott. It's definitely worth checking out.
Okay. So the next tool we're going to talk about real quick, it's called Offeo. And I think I'm saying that right.
I think so. Yeah.
Basically what this tool does is it's, we talked about this last week. We talked about Easel last week. This one is a video tool. And basically all it is it's for making online videos. So Scott, I think you've played around with this, right?
Yeah. You sent me over the link, I think yesterday, and I went, dude, what is this? Of course, I'm all about tinkering. And so it's pretty unique. I mean, it's very similar in some regards to say Wave video. If people are familiar with Wave, because you can create stuff in different sizes real easy. Now transitioning from one size to another is a little bit more difficult in Offeo. But the templates though there's so many templates in this thing. And the animation that it allows you to do, like there's this thing called, I think they're called Genify or something like that. And you can apply for all the elements you add into. So you add some text, you add in maybe a little animated piece, or you add in a logo. You can put them in layers. You can't do that in other stuff. I don't think you can do that in Wave. You put it in layers, so they come in at certain times. Kind of think like a PowerPoint. You're clicking in and it comes in, and you select your effect, and it kind of makes this cool little video. And you can set it how long you want it. You can add your own audio to it. Like I made one that's like 8 seconds long, and it's just boom, boom, there it is. It's sleek and it downloads really fast. There is a paid and a free version of it. So I think if you pay, you get a little bit better quality video download. But neat little tool.
Yeah. And I mean, from a pricing standpoint, so we'll talk about the pricing real quick, then I'll actually show that video that you made. So as you mentioned, I mean, there's the free version that will give you half resolution videos. So if you want, the higher quality resolution, you do want to pay that $19 a month that they do charge. You can only work on one project as opposed to unlimited projects. You can create videos that are 30 seconds long for free, up to 3 minutes with the premium. And then, as you mentioned, I mean, you get access to lots of stock and royalty-free images. You get templates. You get a background removal tool as well, which for video, that's pretty amazing, actually.
I didn't know it did that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and bring on Scott's video. So Scott, tell me, what is this video? Because it's a really quick video.
Yeah, just I would use this for an ad probably. Just like I made this also. I made it widescreen for this so it looked better. But my original video, I was making it in the size of an Instagram story. because I could run an ad with it saying this says we are Social Media Lab. Here's who we are. It has a cool little scene, and the science guy pops in right towards the end. So I would use this for like an ad on Instagram stories or something, or maybe you create a bumper. If you don't have the expense to create a big cool video, you could create a bumper for your live show or some other videos, really quick and easy with doing something like that. And you can make it exit up to 30 seconds long.
Definitely. So I'm gonna go ahead and play this video. I think I got the right one, right?
Yeah, so, I mean, I literally just put in text, and that's all, and then uploaded the guy and had to move it around. The little flashing things were already there in that template. I searched for science, and that's what came up. And so I was like, this is kind of cool. I mean, I get addicted to making a little video tool. Between that and like Headliner and a bunch of other ones, I'm constantly like making videos and in using them for experiments or, putting on social, especially if it's short, sweet. But that's something I would use for an ad, probably on Instagram is where I would probably use that longer. And you could use a square too. Something that's quick, easy, keeps people's attention. I think there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with that.
Very cool. So anything else you want to add on any of the topics or the tools that we covered this week? I mean, we had quite a lot. I know we went a little bit over the time this week. Anything you want to add, Jim?
It's been a great episode and great to have you on, Scott.
Yeah, I love talking with you guys, and it's just fun to geek out, especially when I can add to the geeking out. I am looking forward to actually being in my office. Probably starting tomorrow, I'll be able to go back over to my office. Because funny, like we're sitting here right now, and a second ago, someone opened one of the doors. They looked at me like, "Who is this guy?" And I'm like, "Hey." So there's probably someone watching me through a window right now. They used it. I think they use this room for like driver's ed and GED classes, but they're all closed right now. So yeah, I'm looking forward to going back to normal and being on the show a couple more times. I really do like chatting about the stuff that comes out in the news, and I'm excited about some of these live stuff. The portal thing is still intriguing me. I don't know if my wife would kill me if I bought one.
Maybe you'll have you on in a couple episodes.
I'll ask Mike Alton if I can expense it. But
so, what's the best place, by the way, for people to get in touch with you if they have any questions or just want to connect?
Yeah, you can agorapulselab.com. I kind of wrote it on the board up there, but you really can't see it. Agorapulselab.com. You can see all of our experiments that we've run. You can find our podcast. All those sort of things. And if you need a tool to run your social media, go to agorapulse.com/lab. And I can put those in the comments if you want. You can sign up for a free trial. Then there's actually a coupon to get your first month for free. Nice. So agorapulse.com/lab. We give you a month for free on there.
Very cool. So it's been absolutely fantastic having you on the show this week. Just a quick heads up to everyone, by the way. So if you want to get the blog post recap, that's going to go out this weekend at socialchefs.com/SC239. Again, don't forget to connect with us, as Scott mentioned, at agorapulselab.com. Jim, what's the best place for people to get in touch with you?
Well, I'd say follow me on Twitter at Fusion Marketing, MKTG, or also on LinkedIn, Jim Fuhs. Really, that's probably the place I'm spending the most time when I'm not doing Facebook Lives.
So we will see everybody next Thursday. Next Thursday, we're going to be joined by Ian Anderson Gray. That's going to be at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be talking with him about how to be more confident on camera. Obviously, if you're doing a live video, and I know Scott, you don't have any problem with this. Jim, you don't have any problem with this as well. I mean, we're a whole bunch of episodes in. I mean, so this is it's something we enjoy, but it is something that you do have to work your way up towards to be more confident on camera. But that will be next Thursday, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that will be on Facebook.com/socialchefs or YouTube.com/socialchefs. With that, I'm going to take us out. But thanks a lot for joining us this week. And Scott, thanks a lot for being a guest. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, but thanks for having me on.
We'll see you all next week. Bye, everyone.
Yeah.